All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Make sure I'm positioned properly here. All right. Good afternoon. Made it through the... had a hurricane roll by. Close enough to wave to it, but not close enough to cause us any real trouble, which is good. You know, we've had one of those fairly recently, and wasn't a lot of fun. So, up north of me in Florida, people got hit really hard. And then the flooding. This storm had a lot to dump on the ground, rain-wise, because the flooding is carried through parts of Georgia and even up into the Carolinas. Just really made a mess of things. But you know, that is how it rolls. And maybe the positive element of them is it seems like there's some variety of the paths that they take. And so eventually everybody, you know, everybody gets a heavy one. But, you know, if a Katrina rolled in every single time and smashed New Orleans, probably there'd be nobody left willing to live there anymore. But the fact that those biggies come along to a particular point on the coast about every 10 years on average, that's like just enough time for the insurance companies that went out of business to get replaced and people to rebuild. And then what was the old Sunday school song? The wise man built his house upon the rock, the foolish man built his house upon the sand. Yeah, that's Florida for you. We're all a little bit fools. But the good thing is that the rest of the year it's pretty doggone nice. All right, so we're gonna bring in some props today. And I'm gonna nix the webcam because it does get freaked out here when we do stuff in Character Creator. I've got a character loaded in here just for purposes of scale. Hopefully that will help us as we bring in various props here. So, let's see what we're going to start with. And I've got Blender open in the background in case we need it, which we will for some of these, no doubt. Let's start with a good old FBX one. All right. So this is a motel scene for a short that I've got coming up. Let's drag it in as a prop. 13 meshes. I'm guessing doors, maybe windows, moving parts. So we'll say yes. And yeah, it's a biggie. So let's select the prop and click home. There we go. And it's really big. It does look like it's scaled properly. You can see the character in there. That does look pretty darn good. Maybe we can position it to where she's out in front. All right, so it maybe is a little bit too big. Let's get a little closer on her. Yeah, so a door is a good place to measure scale. So yeah, it's a little bit too big. So let's go ahead and scale it down. Figure something like that probably makes a little more sense. That looks about right, doesn't it? All right, so let's see what we've got as far as textures go. Okay, there's quite a few textures, so we're going to rely on the material names here, which seem to correspond with the textures names. Here's what I've got textures-wise. Quite a few. But they are named nicely, so we've got a material here named Drain. And that's the only one named that, so let's take care of that one first. Go in alphabetical order here. So Drain, there's our base color. It has brought in opacity. It's pulled opacity off of the texture here, so that's probably what it does need. We've got a normal map. And we've got an ambient occlusion texture. I have no idea which part the pipe is. It's probably something on the interior. All right, so next we've got Motel 1 beams. There's one there. Yeah, that's the only material named beams. So let's bring in the color. It's a pretty bland looking color, which makes me think we may end up... All of these have pretty bland colors. So probably we'll be doing some coloring, some RGB coloring, or we could always try out some other textures at some point. But right now we're just getting the object in there. And we've got ambient occlusion right here. All right, that was beams, so I'm assuming that's these vertical beams here. Okay, next up we've got one called ceiling. There's a material called ceiling. Okay, so let's drag in the ceiling. That's probably only visible from inside. That's fine. We've got the ceiling normal map and ceiling ambient occlusion. Yeah, you can kind of see the ceiling texture there. Oh, and it looks like maybe it's used as texture out here too. Yeah, you can see it there. All right, next up. Door. Motel 1 door. I think that's all these here. And they are individual meshes, the doors, which is nice. So if we wanted to vary the color of the doors or vary the wear on the doors, we'll be able to do that. So let's bring in the color. That one has an opacity map that came through as well. Not very much, but up at the top there you can see a little opacity. All right, yeah, and there's our doors. Let's, I want to get a little closer. Okay, so the doors it's basically a black and white wooden texture. They are very much the same. You can see a pattern to them. So when we go to use this in a real scenario, we'll probably need to vary that a little bit, not have them all be on the same texture. Okay, so Motel 1 door, the normal map. And then the ambient occlusion. Not really a super noticeable difference there, but that's fine. Okay, what is next? Floor. So let's find where floor is in the list here. Right there. This says top floor, and that has a separate texture. So, okay, floor. Here's the color texture. I'm assuming it's the floor within the units on the first floor. This walkway here must be a separate texture. So yeah, we could see that there. And we've got the floor normal map. Pretty flat. And we've got ambient occlusion. All right, next up is ground. Ground is right here. I'll bet you that's our ground floor walkway. Yep. Some kind of wooden slats there. There's the normal map and ambient occlusion. This thing's starting to come together now, yeah? It's not super colorful, but that's not hard to adjust. I would rather have the color not be baked in, not a real stark color scheme, because it gives us more freedom to customize this. So I'm not complaining at all. All right, what's next? There's one called pipes. Thank you to the creator of this model for labeling everything nicely. All right, motel pipes. That's got some transparency to it. We've got a normal map. And we've got ambient occlusion. And again, that must be a detailed texture. Oh, it's probably these pipes along the back side here. Okay. There's like some kind of a sink or something back there, isn't there? Okay. What is next? Railing. And where is railing? There we go. So that's really the procedure on these. When you're bringing in a model from the outside, a lot of times the textures are separate files from the mesh. So first you bring in whatever the model is, the mesh that defines the proportions and the surfaces, and then you just assign the textures to the right segments of the mesh. And that's what gets the model, you know, looking the way it was intended. Roof. Where is roof? There we go. Roof. So that's going to be up here, I'm sure. So, roof base color. The roof normal map. That should really help that out, I would think. To give the shingles a little bit of a bumpy look. Although, frankly, that normal map is pretty flat. That could have been done a little better. And ambient occlusion. All right. It is coming along. Next is stairs. There's stairs and there's stairs railing, and they are separate textures. Okay. So stairs right here. And we've got the stairs normal map. The stairs we saw over on the side here. Yeah. So it's basically the actual steps. And this surface here, it looks like. Okay, so stairs, ambient occlusion. All right, next we've got the stairs railing. Stairs, railing. There's the color. There's the normal map. And the ambient occlusion. Okay. Then we've got one called Top Floor, which is, I assume, the floor inside the upstairs units. Top floor. Top floor 1. Good. There's the base color. Yep. Here's the normal map. And the ambient occlusion. Looks like we got about 2 more left. This one's called Motel Room Detail. Motel Room 1 Detail. Detail 1. There it is. Okay. That's the windows and the window frames and the door frames. Normal map. And ambient occlusion. Very good. All right, and the last one is just called Motel Room 1 Wall. Or Walls 1 is the full name of it. Okay. Motel Room Walls 1. Yeah. So we bring in the color. Okay, and that's the outside walls. Boy, it looks a lot better with that. I was a little concerned with how plain it was turning out to be. Okay. And ambient occlusion. All right, so let's get ourselves a closer look. Yeah. We'll never really be looking at this in our scene. We'll never be looking at it from the back. It's all going to be from the front here. And let's just make sure we've got one of the doors selected right now. Is it looks like its pivot point is at the right place to where we can open this door properly? Yes, we could actually open it both ways. It's a really thick door, isn't it? But that's fine. We just want to make sure that it can open. All right, the interiors are very bland, but that's actually okay, because we'll be able to furnish it however we like, and we can put up some curtains and some lighting to come from within there, and it's just gonna make this whole thing, it's gonna work for what we need. And essentially the scene is gonna take place mostly on the second floor, a character coming across here, opening the door and stepping into a room. So there's only one room that we'll need to detail out. And because these things are, let's see how they're separated. So all the doors are individual moving parts. That's good. Yeah, every single door. The drain, for some reason, is... oh, that's in the back. That's that thing there in the back. So the drain and the pipes are separate. So, if we need to... you know, remove the roof, for example, the way we would have to do that is go find that material here, roof, and we could pull its opacity off, and then do the same thing for the ceiling. Let's just try that. There's the roof. There's the ceiling. Not going to be quite so simple, is it? Because there's something else under the ceiling. What is that? Top floor. So if we make that disappear, does that make the actual floor? Yeah. So this could be challenging to work with for filming. If I had built this thing myself, I would have built it where those parts, the walls, the ceiling, could be, you know, on their own, hidden. We're not going to have that ability here. So that will make filming a little bit challenging, but the needs for this are fairly simple. So we'll be able to make it work. A lot of times if you find full like scenes like this in the iClone store, the really good developers over there, they're very thoughtful about that, you know, about an object being usable for filmmaking, to where the walls and things like that can be individually hidden. They're basically broken out as an individual, a separate mesh. When it's just a model off of Sketchfab, which is what this one is, they haven't necessarily designed it with that in mind, right? So now there's a couple ways that one could approach that. One would be if you were to take this model over into a program like Blender and you knew what you were doing, you could kind of regroup how the meshes are divided up. And if we really had to cut the ceiling away or cut a wall away or whatever to film what we needed, then that's what we would have to do. But I don't think that we're going to have to do that for our purposes here. Now, there's something very interesting here. All the doors look okay, except these two doors. Or there's a few doors on the end here. That look very odd, don't they? You see that? They're not quite lined up right. And it's true on both floors. Very interesting. Now, I didn't do that by rotating this, did I? Let me just make sure. No. So yeah, those doors are messed up. We need to fix that. Okay. So, let's grab the whole motel here. Let's name it Motel. And let's set our rotation to 0. We're going to reset the scale. What that's going to do is that's going to basically set the scale back to 100, kind of locking in this sizing, which is indeed what we want to do. Okay. And then we can reset the transform to make it zeros as well. Okay. So we've got some door issues here. Let's start with the worst of them, which is this one here, and I can't select both those at the same time, so that's fine. All right. So we're just going to fix these individually then. So we're going to do that by moving those like so. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Doesn't have to be exact, but they should be recessed properly. Let's jump to home and do the same thing for this one. Wonder how that happened. Like, I wonder if it's that way in the original model or if something happened when we brought it in. Doesn't really matter much at this point, but it just gets me curious. We just want them recessed in there appropriately. All right, and this guy, same thing. Okay. Oh, hey, Phil. Welcome to you. We're just fixing a model here that we brought in from Sketchfab. Okay. This one's off too. And so's this one. I don't remember noticing that before. Really strange. But yeah, all the doors are just a little bit off. Their rotation pivot is set right. So like if we rotate them, they open properly. But the doors are very thick too. That is a beefy door. We may adjust that as well. Doesn't really matter for the doors that aren't going to open. However, to make this a versatile set piece, might be wise to just go ahead and fix them all while we're here. All right. A little bit recessed. But at a glance, they look right. That's good. And this one. The doors are ajar, yeah. I did not notice it when I first brought the model in, but after we got the textures on and I started to take a little bit closer look, I noticed that, yeah, all these aren't quite right. I don't think it's something that I did. I wouldn't know how to do it except for how I'm doing this right now, which is manually moving them. And I didn't really move the model around much, so not sure how it happened, but it's not a disaster. Does anything else look off? Everything else looks fine, I think. Yeah. All right, so the doors are, they're thick. Oop. Excuse me. Okay. So if we want to thin them out, that one's recessed a little bit too much. So if we want to thin them out, we can do that with scale here. Now the pivot point is in the middle of the door, so this may end up screwing up the recesses. Let's see here. Yeah, probably about 50% of what they were. Let's just key in 50. Okay, and then if we rotate now, does it look more... See, that looks like normal door thickness, doesn't it? Okay, so if we just go and 50% scale all of these, they'll be the same. They do recess just a little bit more, but I think that's going to be fine. The reason they do that is because the point from which it's calculating the scaling is in the middle of the width of the door, which is the proper place to put that pivot point so that it'll rotate properly. That's why it's not... that one went a little too far back. That's better. That's a very unusual... Is that supposed to be a door handle or a key card slot? I don't know. The emphasis on this was not detail, it appears. I do like the parquet floors in there, though. Okay, so... Scale. And... Nope. I didn't have the door selected. There we go. It does look like a toilet door handle, doesn't it? I forgot to do this one. It's like just a basic clasp. All right, and 50 and 50. And that's that. Okay. So yeah, the interiors of the rooms are very neutral. But with the scene I'm going to use this with, only one of the rooms are we going to see the interior of it. So probably this room here. The action will go across the balcony and end up not at the very end room, but one of these in the middle here. And with the other rooms, I think I'll just find some good curtains when I dress it up in iClone. And then I don't need to worry too much about the detail there. So let's just line things up for a little bit of a thumbnail. You put a door on a spaceship this morning, so there. Am I right that you're working on the next installment of the Forbidden Planet? Save this thing. We'll save it under props. I'm very excited for that. Okay, so let's make ourselves a new folder. We'll save this here. And we'll call it the motel. Okay. Perfect. All right. Now we've got some office machinery. Oh, a wheel-operated door. Okay. Yeah, like a sub-hatch. That'll be cool to animate. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Yeah, we've got one object that's an FBX already, so we'll get rid of this. We will zoom in on our character for scale. And let's bring in this model, which is called Low Poly Printer. Okay. All right, let's hit home on the printer and see. Okay, there it is. So why? It's at 0, 0. Is it just so tiny? Okay, it is pretty small. I thought I had her at 0, 0. Maybe, oh, I moved her. That's right, I moved her for the, okay. For the motel shot. Alright, so let's just move her just a little off to the side. Alright, so this is some kind of... I think this is the HP model, the HP POS. The model that is, it's cheaper to replace it than it is to repair it. It's a real quality piece of machinery. I see this in my work from time to time. Yeah, that's pretty simple. Let's see what he did textures-wise to see if it ends up being worthwhile to use. So there's just one mesh, okay. It does have a full complement of textures here, though, so or shaders. So let's see how it looks with the dressings. Oh, it's Samsung. All right then. We've got the normal map. Yeah, it does look a lot like a fax machine. Yeah. From what I'm seeing out there, the main industry where they still use faxes a lot, there's two of them. The main one is in the health industry for whatever reason. Although they're all now, all the ones that are customers of mine, they are on electronic faxes at least. But yeah, they use faxes like crazy, because I've brought up that same thing when someone will ask about what should we do for faxes, and I'm like, who uses faxes? But apparently in the healthcare industry, it's still a big deal. And then the law firms that I take care of, they all still rely on faxes. I don't know why. I guess faxes technically have a little bit less security issues than email does. So that may be the reason for them. Healthcare, I'm not sure. Okay, so that's a Samsung printer. Let's just bring it up here. Kind of get a sense of the scale of it. That might be a little bit large. Well, no, that looks about right. I think I might up it just a little bit. I can always adjust this later, of course. Alright, so that's a Samsung printer. It's not quite the form factor I was hoping for, but it's a nice texture. They did a decent job with it. It's simple, but it works. It's even got some wear on the edge there. Unless that's just... Is that just sloppy texturing, or were they trying to make it look like it had some wear? Gives it a little bit of character, I think. It can't be too clean. Yeah, I like that. Anyway, I don't think I'll use it for the short. I might. It doesn't have any moving parts, which is a bummer. Like to flip up the paper tray or things like that. I sure would like to be able to do that. So I may have to keep hunting for a printer. I really want an HP LaserJet. and I don't mean that it has to be HP, but I'm saying that more of a boxy sized printer would work better for the scene. Okay, so let's hide our gal. We should leave that hair shadow in there. Yeah. Okay. So now we've got the printer. We'll call this a Samsung printer. And then content, custom. We'll go ahead and save it in this same folder just to make it easy to find in case we do want to use it. Okay. So that's that one. Let's bring back our scale gal. Yeah, it could be an A3 printer. Okay, so the next one is well, I've got several options for a full-on, like more like a copy machine. But this one's not ready to bring in yet, so we're gonna have to do a little, bring it into Blender first and see what it looks like. So let's copy that path. We're gonna import. Is a colada, a pina colada. No one's ever made that joke, have they? Okay. Pretty decent mesh. Pretty decent. And there's all the textures. Are we, does it have? No, it doesn't have the textures on. I hate applying, and there's a little bit of overlap in spots there. That's a bummer, but we wouldn't be seeing it necessarily. These are the only ones that would be relevant. So I wonder. Can we adjust the scale of that tray so the texture isn't overlapping? So if we hit scale and then Y and make that a little thinner. All right. No more overlap there. Where else did I see it? I thought I saw it on the back side somewhere here. It was here. I'm less concerned about that. Okay, so the only other thing then we need to do is I would like, it may not matter, but if we do G and then Z, let's see. There we go. G, Z. Let's try and get it better lined up with the floor. Okay. Now there's a little bit of overlap there, isn't there? A couple spots. Yeah. How can we fix that? Huh? Don't want to do that. Yeah, man, oh man. I have a feeling that overlap is gonna cause some trouble. Z fighting only kicks in at a certain distance. But we're gonna need to see this thing from a distance. Okay. So if we scale on the y-axis, man, that's a lot to fix. Is this even worth it? I'll never really have to see it from that far away. It's definitely not noticeable up close. But it's really noticeable at a distance. Alright, well, let's bring it over and see. We'll keep it open in Blender here. But let's, we're going to export this as... Why is my mouse running away from me? Export as FBX. We got to change this, I believe, to copy. Even though there's no textures. We can go ahead and say all object types because the only thing there is this. There's no camera or anything like that. And we'll put it in the same folder. And we'll call it MFP printer. Okay, so now if we bring that into Character Creator as a prop, 21 meshes, yes. And why is it so big? Am I imagining things, or is that gigantic? You see her down there? Man. I really need to set myself up with a character creator model that I can bring into Blender for scaling, because it's really easy to just lose a sense of how big something is over there without either a measuring stick or something. Okay, I'm going to turn off the webcam. I forgot to do that earlier, but it gets all jumpy here when we're doing this. Okay, so we need to bring this thing way down in scale. Like, we may have to do this a couple times to get it right. Yeah. It's still just slightly too big. Yeah? Just slightly. Just ever so slightly too big. Okay. So we'll reset the scale. Let's put it over next to her here. It's actually pretty close now. It's a little bit taller, I think, than it should be. She's like an average height person, so That feels better. Okay, so let's get some textures in here and see if we have any of those Z-fighting issues. Meshes. Quite a few meshes here. All right, so let's go through them in alphabetical order. We've got printer black stuff. A few instances of that. We should do these by name, shouldn't? Or yeah, sort them by name. Okay, so there's printer black stuff. We've got the base color. What happened? We've got... Okay, we're going to do these one at a time because when you do it with a sort here, for some reason this thing goes wonky. So let's just do them one at a time. Normal map. And normal map. And normal map. Yeah, this is one that would like service a whole office, multiple paper trays, and it's a biggie. All right, I'm trying to figure out what the most effective way to do this is. I guess if I'm just careful, I can still do it by group, but I have to keep reselecting the group. That's annoying. Metallic, I don't think that even has anything in it. Just solid black, and we got ambient occlusion. Okay. Now we've got printer body. It should be the main coloring. Ah. Little logo on there and stuff. That's cool. I've never heard of Red Fox. Well, I mean, the comedian, but not that line of printers. All right, ambient occlusion. And metallic. And roughness. And then normal map, which looks like it's flat, but we'll put it in there anyway. Okay. Next we've got body dark. That's right here. Body dark. Okay. That's like down at the bottom there mainly. Body dark. Ambient occlusion. And metallic. Roughness and normal. Okay. Body tray are these three meshes. Okay. And body tray AO. And metallic. And roughness. And normal. All right, then we've got drawer handle. That's got to be this piece right here. Drawer handle, just a basic grayish color. Drawer handle. AO. And metallic. And roughness. All right. Plastic dark. Oh, that looks nice. That does look nice. Okay. Plastic dark. AO. Dark metallic. And roughness. And normal. Yeah, so far I'm not seeing any. Yeah, and I'm not sure how to explain that. Could be a difference in the way Blender renders things. It could be when it converts it to FBX. Maybe there's some rounding that goes on that fixes that. I'm venturing into dark territory there. I really don't know why that would be a problem there and not here, but I'm happy with the outcome. All right, plastic light. Boom. It's not that light, is it? Let's get all the shaders in and see. Okay, plastic light, ambient occlusion, and metallic. And roughness. And normal map. We're getting close here. Okay, a little bit of edge stuff there at certain angles, but I don't think it's going to be an issue with how we'll be filming it. But none of those major surfaces that were giving us trouble appear to be doing so now, which is good. Yeah. All right, what's next? We've got plastic very dark. There it is. Wow, this is an interesting UV map. I don't know how well you can see that, but whole bunch of little shapes. It's details somewhere. I couldn't even tell where it went in. Maybe it's, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so plastic very dark. AO. And metallic. And roughness. And normal. And then the last one is printer screen. Is that this thing right here? Is this like an LCD? Let's hope so. That would be cool. Plastic screen menu. Oh, that's beautiful. It's a little bit simple, but it's very effective. I like how readable it is at a distance even. That's nice. Okay, so ambient occlusion, metallic. Whoops, I accidentally double-clicked the texture there. Yes, there is an emissive texture That's part of the shader for this mesh. Come on, Paint Shop. Read the room, man. All right. Metallic and roughness and normal. Wow, the roughness map gives it that that glossiness, that shine. I love it. Okay, and then the final one is emissive, and it looks like a pretty subtle glow. But let's get to where we can actually see the effect. We drop this on glow. Yeah, it's pretty subtle. But it's nice. It mainly is lighting up. The power button, you can really see it on there. That's nice. That's nicely done. All right, so one thing I'm curious about is how hard it will be to edit this logo. I can't tell which mesh that's a part of. I guess I could double click it and see. Okay, so it's supposedly part of the printer body. I want to launch this texture and just see. Because if I find out Red Fox really is like a known brand and not just a blue comedian, I may want to change that. And it's pretty straightforward. It's right in here. It's upside down, but it's pretty straight. So yeah, I'll be able to edit that if I need to. Good, good, good. Maybe it is Red Fax. That's a good point. Huh. It's such a distinct logo that it's like, would someone really have made that up for the purposes of this model? Maybe they did. Okay, so believe it or not, one of the main characters in the short that we're prepping this for is the copy machine. So this will work well for that. So let's hide our character and her sweater. Okay. And we want to name this. Let's call it the Red Fox Copy Machine. Why not? Or should we name it after Red Fox? Didn't he use 2 X's on his last name? I can't remember. Red Fox is, of course, the guy from Sanford and Son, etc. Kind of a legend. Okay. So that turned out all right. So we don't need this in Blender anymore. Looking good. All right. Let's see what else we got in the folder here. So that was one that I had named Copy Machine 2. We've got at least 2 other candidates here. And we're just going to look at them in Blender first and foremost, and unless they really wow us, we're not going to bother taking them beyond that. Because this first one made a pretty good showing. So So let's see what this one looks like. And it's really scaled down. Okay, wow. That is a monster machine. And I love the detail on the screen. Although it's a little bit low res, it looks like. A little bit blurry. But I do love that. However, as I mentioned, this copy machine... Okay, you did a Google on Red Fox. Nothing came up. Okay. So my guess would be then that whoever designed that model probably is, you know, generally engaged as a digital artist and maybe had to do, maybe did logos as part of their studies or their training or whatever, or just has a knack for that. And if it were me, like I would have looked through my old files and go, hey, I'll use that logo that I designed and never had any purpose for. So that may be all it is. They just slapped it on. So I like some things about this copier. However, our copier needs to be able to move because it is a character in this very strange short. So I don't see myself fabricating casters to make this thing movable. The other one was on some wheels, on casters, so it's conceivable that we can show it moving around of its own accord. This one, not so much. I do like it, but doesn't suit what we need. All right, so what else we got here? Got this other one. And this one's a collada file. So let's just see what this one looks like. Okay, that looks a lot like the one we just looked at, but without the textures applied. I mean, that looks very similar. Definitely looks similar on the bottom. So maybe I screwed things up, and these are two different versions of the same model in one folder or something. So, yeah, we're good. We've got the copier that we want to use. So let's select everything, clear that out. Okay. Printer low poly, that's the Samsung machine that we already took care of. Okay. So what is next? Next, we're going to be trying out some stuff for a photo. Some kind of a handheld picture or photo or something, and I've got a few possibilities for that. So let's look at what this is. Oh, this is a camera. Okay. Doggone tricky foreign language. Appareil photo. I'm assuming that is appareil. Is that French? A-P-P-A-R-E-I-L? Appareil photo? It's basically a photo apparatus is essentially what that translates to, I believe. So, okay. So that one's actually a camera, which we don't need for this. All right. So next is... This one's just old photo, and it's a Blender file. Okay. Photo really isn't that difficult to just mock up myself, but I thought if I find something that's interestingly done, then maybe use that. Like if the paper's a little bendy or something like that. Like that. Okay, so this has got a lot going on here. Yeah, you see how irregular that paper is? I like that. I like that a lot. Because it is intended to be kind of an old photograph, and it would have a little bit of dog-eared edges and stuff. So, it definitely does have textures associated with it and stuff. So we're just going to try to export this as FBX. There we go. We have to change path mode to copy and turn this on. The scale, we'll just leave it as is. That's fine. We're going to put it right there in the same folder. We'll just keep it that name. That's fine. Export. And it's very large, so I think it did embed the textures. It's quite large, actually. So let's see what it looks like over here. We exported as FBX, now we're importing as a prop. It's a very big file, it's like 20 meg. So it's a very high-res photo. Okay. So we clearly need to do something about the scale. Let's reset the rotation. And let's scale it. We can just make that a 90-degree rotation, I think. Yeah. All right, so let's bring it up. It's a little bit unusual size for modern photos, but for an old photo, yeah, I don't think that there was standards of those size like there is nowadays, and that's okay for the purposes of this. So it's going to be something that someone will hold in their hand. So let's just kind of get it near her hand. Maybe a little bit big for what we need. Yeah. Something like that should work really, really well. All right, let's see what we got going on textures-wise. Nicely done. There's a front and a back with two separate, very straightforward textures. So I'll be able to easily put my own photo on there. And what I'll want to do is add, if I want to make it look kind of a little bit crumpled like this, I'll need to add that. That's part of the texture. That's not... Oh, it's part of the bump map too. This was really, really well done for something so simple. They didn't skimp at all. So yeah, the bump map gives those little folds just a little bit of raised texture. So actually, if I were to change the photo, the bump map's going to help me out a bit, but I'll want to keep lines similar to this on a photo I do, if I don't want to have to try and do a new bump map, which I don't. So that's going to work really well. All right, so we'll just go ahead and call this old photo. Oh, there we go. Copy that name, come over to content. Let's see here. This is for that short that we were working on that has that we're stuck on because the grass still doesn't work. which, by the way, I checked and they still haven't pushed an update for that yet, so. I'll give them till Monday or Tuesday, and then I'll poke them a little bit and see what's up. I know these things take time, so. Okay. So that's our old photo. Now I do have a couple other interesting candidates here for something. So let's delete that. Let's go back to our character, kind of get reoriented. And this one is supposed to be a Polaroid photo. It doesn't really, I don't think it fits with what I'm wanting to do, but it was an interesting idea. This is just an OBJ file. Strange orientation they did with it, but that's not really that big a deal. And it's got multiple meshes, multiple parts to its mesh, but they all use the same texture map. But on the texture map, the photo is oriented. It looks like the photo is oriented straight up and down. Yeah. So that would be, and boy, that's a nice job on the back of it there. That looks really good. So yeah, if I wanted to put in my own photo there, yeah, it seems like it honors the aspect ratio, but just cuts off the bottom. Is that right? Yeah. So you can actually put in a proper photo. You don't have to stretch or anything, and it's going to cut off the bottom inch and some of the top too. That's ideal for a texture like this, I would think, if you're going to want to adapt the prop. So while I don't need that for this short, this is a pretty handy prop to have around. So we'll go ahead and save it as Polaroid photo. And I'm just going to put it under props. I didn't even check the scale on this, did I? I should do that. Whoops. Stray click there. Oh, come on now. All right, so yeah, we should probably pay a little bit of attention to the scale. Let's get this closer to our person. And it's a little bit big. That's fine though. So let's bring it up close to the hand. Yeah, that's a jumbo Polaroid for sure. Nice. Okay. All right, and we're just gonna overwrite that. Okay. That'll be handy for later. All right. The other one I think is a framed photo. Maybe we'll take a quick look at that. It's called Picture Frame. It's an FBX. So we'll drag it right in, call it a prop. Oh, that's discouraging. You reported issues with the particle stuff last year. Did they respond and say they were working on it but just never did, or did they just not even respond? I think this is only the second time I've ever had to contact support. But the other one was more just with a question, not a fix. They responded pretty quick to me. But you hear various levels of satisfaction levels from people in the groups and such. I never know how serious to take that sometimes, because it's people you don't know, so you don't know, is this person a complainer or prone to exaggerate or whatever. It's different than hearing about it from someone that you know. Okay, so these are, they're decent looking props. They're actually, the orientation of them is nice if you wanted to have them both sitting there. Maybe a little big. Like on a table or something. So, let's call this picture frames standing. Let's take a look at our texture situation here. So there are two separate meshes. But I can't really tell what's what. They're not separate selectable things. That's a little bit of a bummer. But let's see what we've got textures-wise. Are they named in a useful way? Okay, kind of. There's one that has a 2, and there's one that has a 7 in the texture names. So let's assume that will work. So here's the 2 base texture. Okay. And then metallic and roughness and normal map. Okay, they're nice textures. That's nice. I mean, never mind the photograph, which that's a good photograph choice for this, but the wood, the pattern of wear, and it's got a lived-in look. I like that a lot. So that's the first photo, and then the second one, same basic idea. And metallic, and the normal, and the roughness. Yeah, no discernible pattern that I can see in the wood. It's got a handcrafted look to it. The backs look great. Yeah, that's a nice prop. Probably my only beef with it is that if I wanted to recolor the wood using RGB here, whatever color I apply to that is also going to apply to the photograph itself. And that's not necessarily desirable. If I wanted to make the wood a little lighter or a little darker or give it a little bit of a hue or a tint, I wouldn't necessarily want that to apply to the photo. So I don't know, what would you do in that? If you had to do that, I think the scenario I would do is probably create a plane and attach it and let the plane be the photograph. So it's independent. So if I have to use it that way, that's what I'll probably do if I need to recolor it. But They're good-looking photos. They are turned on their side. It looks like, at least the long one is turned on its side in the mesh, or in the texture. And this one's upside down. But again, those things don't really matter. As long as they're squared, then you can rotate and deal with that as a texture. So, yeah. That's going to be a handy prop for some scene. So, let's save it. And we'll just put this one under props as well. We're going to call it Picture Frames 2 Standing. And the thumbnail is going to communicate that it's 2 anyway, but I found that the bigger your prop collection gets, the more you wish search would be helpful for it. It's not always terribly helpful, but one thing that helps with that is having names that have search terms that you would look for. Unlike some of the stuff that I've downloaded and either they're in another language or they're just not descriptive. I mean, Mesa, that's table. That's all this says is table. But it's a table and chairs. This one is just called Model 0. I can't even tell what that is from the thumbnail. This is when I basically brought stuff in on a little bit more aggressive basis. Not being thoughtful and careful as I did. So there's like a big asset cleanup project that I really, at some point, need to undertake. There's a fair amount of stuff that I wouldn't mind getting rid of as well that just hasn't proven to be useful. So, okay, what's next? How about some space stuff? All right, so let's get our character squared up here. Yeah, I bet the like even you're talking about even stuff that might have been gotten through the marketplace and stuff like that. Yeah, some of that old stuff is still in the stores, and yeah, the standard of quality of what you can make use of in iClone sure has changed a lot over the years, hasn't it? Oh, VPN files. Yeah, I don't think I ever used iClone in the era where that was a format. Okay. FBX. Yeah. This is large. Oh no. What's going on? I've noticed that sometimes if the scale of something is so abnormal, iClone doesn't know what to do when you press the home button. This thing is just gigantic. Okay. Okay, so we need to select it, and I think we need... Oh, wait, why is it at 10,000 scale? Okay, that helps, doesn't it? Okay, so that is quite ugly. But I think that's because what we're looking at is there's no actual textures applied yet. It's just the RGB coloring. And that coloring is going to blend with textures when we put them on. I have to assume that's what's going on. But this is a battle cruiser. Right now, it looks like the Fisher-Price battle cruiser. Like something that would be hanging from a child's mobile or something. So it probably was at close to the right scale. But we don't necessarily need to have this be at correct to human scale for the shot that we're going to use on this, if we use it. So we've got our work cut out for us here. Let's see what they provided in terms of textures. And surprisingly, there's only a few texture files. So somebody has been very... Okay. This is going to be interesting. The texture file names. That's what I've got. That's the textures. There's no numbers anywhere in the material list. What a mess. Let's see what this names file tells us. Is this a codex? Yeah, Tonka Toy, that's right. Okay, so that's not a map index for us. A map legend. That is a label that goes on it somewhere. Wow. Oh boy. I'm not sure that I'm not sure I care enough about this model to go through the guessing game of what goes where here. Let me see if I can find... the actual picture. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Tell me if you notice a difference. I mean, dude, it's a cool looking ship. That's what drew me in. Is, all right, that looks awesome. But somehow I've got to get these onto this in some way. Oh man. I mean, look at that. It's gorgeous. Helps that it's, however, that I don't know how they set these up sometimes in for Sketchfab to be lit like that. But that's very complimentary lighting. That orange glow coming off it and stuff. It looks nice. Like I could totally see me using that for something, but oh boy. Is there any logic here? There's the 3 normal maps. Okay, so 01, 02, and 03, and we've got 011, 012. Nope, there's no... Okay, so normal maps we could figure out by just matching them up to the texture. This normal map clearly goes with this texture, yada, yada, yada. But how to know which of these? Good Lord. right. I am gonna do that, but I'm not gonna torture you with watching me do that. And I'm gonna need an extra dose of caffeine to have the patience for that. So we'll come back to the DSS Harbinger. Is it Harbinger or Harbinger? Harbinger, right? Okay. We'll come back to that. I'll show it to you when it's done, but I'm not gonna... That just seems like a way to lose friends. Is making someone watch me do that. So, okay. This one's called the Racket. R-A-K-E-T. That's either really bad spelling, or it's a language I don't know, or... But it's an OBJ. It's very tiny. So let's bring it up. And how about that? That looks like it brought the textures with it. So the only problem with it, and when I saw the picture of this, I thought, that looks cool. But I sure hope I'm going to be able to get rid of some of this, like, you know, the floor. And if this is going to be a ship that takes flight, I need to be able to close the doors, get rid of the ladder. And with it being an OBJ, there's definitely not any... There's not any skeleton. So I might be able to make certain stuff disappear, but I'm not going to be able to close the doors. So I think this one is going to take not quite as harrowing an experience as texturing the toy spaceship, but yeah, I'm going to have to separate out some of these meshes. That's something I'll have to do in Blender, I believe. Like for the doors, to be able to close them and rotate them on the right axis and stuff like that. And I'm very slow. Oh, and the back door, too. I need to be able to flip that up. If this is going to be a craft that I show in the air. Not to mention... I don't remember if this has an actual cockpit or not. It seems like it does. Okay. It's hard to get a good angle on it here. But maybe... Yeah, see, these aren't separate meshes. They are separate materials, but because it's OBJ, it's all kind of... It's kind of like they've been baked together. Like I would, if this was going to be used, I would want to be able to see a little bit into that cockpit, not just have it be just a ship, but actually show people in there. The landing gear needs to come up. So yeah, that's going to be, that's exactly right. Yeah, the legs need to retract. So that's a job best done in Blender. That's, you know, Character Creator 4 is wonderful, but a modeling program, it's not intended to be. So I'll bring that into Blender and kind of... I'm working my way through kind of a Blender course that I found for really cheap over on Udemy to kind of fill in some gaps there, because I'm only like... I wouldn't even use the word competent. I can get a few things done in Blender. That's the extent of... If I had to put it on a resume, it's... I can get a couple things done in there. And I'm finding that I want to be able to do more. So I'm kind of trying to fill in the gaps. And basically, I'll use this as a learning piece. That there's a few things here that, you know, I need to learn how to do properly in any 3D modeling software. But Blender's the one that I've decided to go with. Just because, if for no other reason, it's so good at opening all different types of formats of models. and does a pretty good job converting them into something I can use in iClone. And that's the only reason I even am messing with Blender at all, is for the purposes of pipeline. So this one I'm going to put in my pile of ones to do something within Blender. What's next? We've got another one here that's called Racer. Let's get squared up in our scene again here. She's so patient. Just standing there while we're making all this mess, getting very little done. All right, this one's an FBX. It's called Racer. And it looks a lot better when it's textured. I don't know if I'll be able to use this or not, but let's try some stuff out here. Okay, we're not worried about scale for this, but it's a single person or maybe dual person high speed, like a racing spaceship basically. All right, one mesh. So, and one very simple set of textures. So let's just hold our breath here and see what this looks like. There's the base color. And we've got roughness. And normal map. And what looks like a completely black emissive texture, which is a bit of a bummer. And that's it. Yeah. It's an intriguing shape, but I don't know. I'm not real excited by the texturing on that. Yeah. And there's so many other choices out there. It's like that's another thing that I'm only barely competent at, and I'm slow. And time is the ultimate commodity. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a pass. Just a little bit more work than would be worthwhile. Okay, what's next? This one is called Sci-Fi Space Station. I can't remember what this one was, but it's an FBX, and it is enormous. So let's bring it back. Good Lord. It's huge. Oh, is it wrapped? Okay. This is a cockpit, I believe. Yeah. That's what those sky textures are. So let's see if we can get those out of the way. Did they name them in a way that makes sense? Okay, backdrop. Let's get that out of the way. I can't really see what's going on. It does not look very detailed in there. Oh, wow, okay. So it's a really big bridge with only one seat and a couple of consoles. Yeah, that looked very different in the Sketchfab render. Yeah. I don't see that being a useful one for this, so let's get that out of there. All right, so we can... My recycle bin is like, nom, nom, nom. All right, this is another potential cockpit. It's an FBX. Where did it go? Huh. What is that? Huh. Why did I grab this? I guess if it was going to be... Maybe if I was going to use the racer one, and there is no cockpit in that, then my thought was, well, I could use this as for close-up cockpit shots. But I think we've ruled out the racer. And this would be a nightmare to film with. Good lord. So yeah, we're going to say no on that as well. Let's get back to human scale here. That one was called Space Fighter Cockpit Wasp Interdictor. That's a big name for whatever that was. All right, and this one is... I'm not real optimistic here. Spaceship for upload. That's what he named the model on this one. It's an OBJ. It's a itty bitty. So let's get that a little bit up in size. Okay. It's got a little escort there. Oh man, did he model the jets? I think he did. And holy cow, this thing is enormous. If that's the scale. And with this being OBJ, that'd take a lot of work to get all those. This is almost like a diorama type thing, right? Not a model intended to be used, but more of just one for a specific render or maybe a class project or something like that. So the ship itself was kind of intriguing looking. It's a little strange. Like I'm not sure the shape of it makes a whole lot of sense. But again, with it being OBX, we could throw some textures on it just to see, but oh dear. Okay, so yeah, here's the names of the meshes and the texture names. First of all, there's far fewer textures. Look at all those meshes. And they're named just like a cat stepped on the keyboard or something. So, yeah. We do want to finish our next Machinima production before our time on this Earth is done. So, we're going to say no on that one. And we will wish the laddie who designed it, good things for his future. But this was not to be. All right, in the space vein, we've got time for a few more here. I'm looking for a proper UFO. And found a couple possibilities that are intriguing. So we're going to create a new Blender project. We do not need to save this. We'll get rid of the default Blender stuff. And then we're going to import this Collada file. Wow. It is incredibly tiny. And it looks like they may have meshed the abduction beam. Oh, we're getting some heavy rain here. I don't know if you probably can't hear that through the stream, but okay, so this is startlingly simplistic mesh, but let's just bring it on over as an FBX and see what it looks like with some textures on it. The title of this model was UFO 1969. So at least the title was cool. All right, let's see what we're looking at here. It's a prop. Yes. And it's probably really small. It's at 000. Okay, that's it right there. Okay. So let's bring it up. It's completely transparent right now. Now, I haven't applied any textures, but it's unusual that it would be completely transparent. So let's see what's going on over here. We've got the beam mesh, and we've got the actual UFO mesh, and we do have two sets of textures there. Oh, opacity is turned way down. Something weird happened on the way over from Blender. Okay. That beam might actually come in handy. All right, well, let's see if textures bring this thing properly to life. So it looks like... Okay, there's just one set of PBR textures for everything. So let's bring them over. Like so. Ambient occlusion. And metallic. And the normal map. A UFO for ants, that's right. And then there is an emissive texture, which would make sense for this, I would think. Doesn't seem to have done much. I mean, I can see where it applied the glow, but it's very odd how they did the beam. But the beam is the least important part of this. So let's go to the beam. Let's just hide it from our view for now. And try to figure out why this thing is so dark. So if we go here, we don't want the beam, we want the UFO. And the base color, let's just bring the brightness all the way up. I love the shine, but I don't understand why it's so dark. The base texture is not that dark. Wait, use RGB? That helped a little bit. Yeah, and there's like a hole in the top of it. Excuse me. Yeah. This is not the droid we're looking for. I mean, that's the basic shape idea, I guess. And I do like the shininess, but there's just not enough going on there, and there's some problems, I think. Like, I don't understand why there would be a literal hole in the mesh on the top there. I don't understand the thinking behind that. It does feel like something's either broken or missing, doesn't it? Did I do that when I took the beam away? I don't think I did. No, the beam is just that lower part. And the beam looks weird too, doesn't it? It kind of looks like it's metallic. It should all be this. So yeah. Okala-dokali. So UFO 1969, not to be. But we have one more hope. I think I already have a UFO that I can fall back on that I bought from the actual Reallusion store. I just remember that it didn't like knock my socks off. So I've kind of been on a bit of a Sketchfab binge since they're changing the content store and stuff like that, and I just thought, well, let's just anything that I had bookmarked to eventually go ahead and get it while I can. The stuff will probably all still be there, I don't know, but I found it to be a pretty helpful resource for this ultra low budget endeavor of ours. Okay. It's another one that's very dark. Let's see what the textures have to offer. So there's metal, black, and ventanilla. What is ventanilla? The ventilation holes? The vent holes? It is orange. The emission is orange. Alright, so let's go to ventanilla. Okay, yeah, it's base color orange. But this should be under emission as well. Yeah, gives it a little bit of a glow. I don't understand why it's so dark. But let's go to metal. Metal, we've got... Okay, the textures are already there. They were embedded. And then for the black, base color, bump map, metallic didn't come through. Which would make it very dull, I think. The white would. Okay, so the only other thing is the diffuse color is turned way down. Was that by design? That didn't seem to have affected anything. It's because I got the wrong thing selected. Okay. 27, 27, 27. Huh. And if we go to the metal, okay. I mean, it's just kind of ugly. It's just kind of ugly. What is there, like a grid on there almost? It's a nice mesh, but the textures are just awful. Well, I don't want to be a snob. They're just not what I'm looking for. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not what I'm looking for, and that's okay. Yeah. All right. We've got a couple minutes here while we're on the space theme. This is for a different story. This is an FPX. It's supposed to be a space taxi, or kind of. It looked like a space taxi in the Sketchfab photo. Let's see what it looks like with its textures on. Oops, wrong person. There we go. All right, one mesh. Interesting looking textures. Good. Let's see what we got here. Okay. We've got metallic roughness, the normal map, and emissive. Okay, so this is weird. This is weird because there are textures for the windows, but there's no mesh to apply them to. And up close, that texture doesn't look good. Like at all. How big are these? Let's see how big this file is. It's a 2K texture. But it doesn't work good for close-ups, that's for sure. And you know, the shape is not terribly interesting. But yeah, these are supposed to be translucent or transparent windows here. So something's incomplete because the only model is this one and the only mesh is this one. So not a big deal. That's a short that's in very early pre-production anyway. So not important to pin that down just at this point. I'll take a quick look at a couple more in this folder. Again, in the space theme. Futuristic transport shuttle. Animated. Really? It's FPX. Okay. What is that? Okay. Animated, huh? We can hide the plane. Transport shuttle. There's some bones, all right. But they're not applied to anything that matters. So like these doors, we just have to have them fly with the doors open. No big deal, right? They're not... this thing has like 16, 17, 18 bones. But they aren't bound to the mesh anywhere. So they... this is a Princess Bride Inigo Montoya moment. That word bones. I do not think it means what you think it means. So yeah. We'll not worry about that one. How about this Mantis? This is the Mantis transport shuttle. This is our last model of the day. 241 meshes, huh? Really? Okie dokie. It's a 100 megabyte model. I'm not sure if that includes textures. But there's only one set of textures in a separate folder, and they weigh about 72 meg. So I'm guessing the textures are included. It's taken a while to load. We actually don't need Blender open anymore. Let's do that and close it to conserve a little resources. And man, yeah, this one's taking its time. Textures are not terribly inspiring. This is our base color right here. So, yeah. That's what we're going to be dealing with here. If it ever opens. It is taking its sweet time. Okay, not responding. That's fine. We're not being impatient. We're just asking. I have a strange suspicion that maybe this model is not terribly well optimized. This texture is... I got to get a closer look at this. It's a... Okay. That base color texture weighs 25 megs. It's an 8K texture. And this is it. Oh, dear. Oh. Oh, no. Oh. Okay. This is a scan, isn't it? And I don't say scam with an M. It was free, yes. All of these today have been free. But I think this is one of those photogrammetry scans somehow. Only because who would create on purpose a UV map like this? Who would do this? Satan, perhaps? Yeah. That's 25 meg. And this basically could almost fit into a grayscale color palette. 25 megs. Oh, hey. It's loaded. Yes. Yes. This is it. This is, I couldn't have anticipated, or couldn't have not expected this. Okay. I gotta be honest, it's not, at first glance, 100% disappointing. It's a little weird. And I don't know how someone would do a photogrammetry scan of something like this unless they had it as a toy. So I don't know how to explain that weird texturing. It's super bright. And it did have the textures embedded. That's part of why it was so big and why it took so long. But as a full-on, like... And maybe I'm thinking about this wrong, right? Is it a muffler on the front? Let me... Yeah, what is going on there? Let's see if we can get in a little closer. Ugh, it went the wrong way. I really don't know. Is there a more efficient way to do, like, big zooms? I always feel so stupid when I'm just wearing out the mouse wheel like that. It feels like with every stroke of the mouse wheel, it's like there has to be a better way. Stop. Yeah, it's really weird. It's like all washed out. It's not a horrible model, but like I don't know how I would. I mean, I realize that I shouldn't be looking at ships like this as things that I could do both interior shots and exterior shots in. That's realistically, that's not the way things are done. I always keep hoping that I'll stumble upon one where I can, but, you know, the truth of the matter is, that's just not how it's done. It's not how it's done in Hollywood. It's not how it's done by other animators either. I'm sure that you're not filming, you know, your interior Forbidden Planet shots inside the same flying saucer model that we see flying through space, right? I realize it doesn't work that way, but I can't help but, like, you know, look at one of these ships and then I try to think, okay, so how will I pull that off? I'm going to have to model some kind of interior. Yeah. But anyway, it's yeah, it's a little bit too much. It's like a manatee. It's a manatee of space travel. This is what this feels like. Like it's big, it's heavy, it's slow moving. And others make fun of it for its weight. Yeah, not what I'm looking for. Man, did it look so much better in its Sketchfab shot. Yeah, I'm glad I did not pay for it. I would be a little angry. But it was free, so this isn't a complaint. It's just regular disappointment. Right? Okay. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. Does this spaceship make me look fat? Yeah. It's mostly water weight. So. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will be back to streaming next week. Have a great rest of the night. We'll see you next time.